Welcome to Triad All Stars. Where are they now? Hosted by Ryan Smith.
Hello and welcome back to Triad All Stars. My name is Ryan Smith, and we're doing a series of episodes about former and current players and coaches from East Forsyth High School. And my guest today is a member of the 1992 state championship football team. He is Rod Funderburk. Rod, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Ron?
I am doing superb. It is so great to have you on. First member of the 92 championship team on this podcast. So congratulations to you for that achievement there. Let's go ahead and start. Just talk about growing up and how sports played a role. You have a family of two brothers, one older brother, one younger, mom and dad. Obviously, your dad was a Methodist pastor, your mom a retired school teacher. Talk about your family growing up and how sports played a role.
Well, family was strict growing up, man. Dad ruled by the Bible. He believed in not sparing the rod because it was for the child. And of course, I didn't understand that then growing up,
Right.
But I definitely understand it now, especially when I look at some of the way different folks raise their kids now with by sparing the rod and how spoiled they are. And, you know, it's just a different generation right now. But growing up, man, was cool. I was in church every Sunday. Sunday school was the main thing growing up. I learned how to play the piano. So I played the piano for my home church for a while. Well, all through high school. That's how I made money in high school, playing the piano and also cutting grass. Mom was a school teacher. She made sure that we did homework and she gave us extra work, whether it was in English, whether it was in math, didn't matter. She didn't do too much science and history, but math and English, she made sure that we were on top of it. And not only did she do that for us, the kids, the brothers growing up, but she also did it for my dad, making sure he did not break his verbs and such whenever he was in the pulpit. And he also worked at RJ Reynolds as well. But yes, growing up, sports didn't really play a big part in my life until I got to high school. I was not allowed to play any organized sports at all. The only sports I could play was out in the yard, whether it was at the basketball goal or whether it was throw up tackle or the kids in the neighborhood. You know how you say, hey, go down to the car and turn around and I'll throw you the ball. Yeah, that was it. I didn't play any Pop Warner football or anything of that nature. I didn't start playing sports until I got to high school. And to be honest with you, my parents weren't really fans of it. You know, they were fans of education and making sure you got what you needed in your head. Yeah. And not physically. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you mentioned, we are in a different generation of kids nowadays. You know, I grew up in the generation of we went outside and we played sports till, you know, dinner time or you took a break for lunch and then came right back out. And it seems like the kids nowadays, unless they're playing organized sports in a travel league or something, they're just always either inside on their device or playing the next set of, you know, Halo or whatever is out there, TikTok videos. I don't know. It's so
that's right.
Definitely a different generation for sure. You move on to high school, like you said. That's kind of when you started playing sports apart from the stuff outside. Member of the East Forsyth championship team, as I said at the top, class of 1992. You were a senior year, one of three team captains on the team. Played defensive end, all special teams, and really played everything except offense. You were runner up on Defensive Player of the Year in the Metro 4A. So talk about your time at East Forsyth. I mean, this is a specific episode to East Forsyth specifically. Talk about your time at East Forsyth, what that meant to you, and I guess really what legacy do you feel like you left on your time there? I know you obviously do color with Desmond for the football team, obviously in the fall now, but talk about your time in East Forsyth and just, like I said, what kind of legacy you felt like you left there.
Well, East Forsyth was amazing. I mean, it was awesome. That's when you knew that you had really grown up. You were more of an adult. When I first got to East Forsyth, we were actually still allowed to go off campus for lunch, as long as you could find a ride with a senior, of course, or a junior. But you could go off campus. Yeah, or you could go off campus for lunch. Lunch was like an hour and 15 minutes. So even if you didn't get all your homework done, you had plenty of time to get it done. But East Forsyth was great. The teachers were great. You know, because of my parents and things of that nature, I took, you know, majority of honors classes. I always wanted to be helpful in every way that I could. And of course, I love the social life. That's just, how it was at East Forsyth. The social during that time was a big thing. There was no social media. There was actual physical interaction and talking to your friends, whether it was talking on the phone or hanging out with them at school, hanging out after school, maybe after a game on Friday night. Some Saturdays I didn't get to hang out really like that on Saturdays, due to my upbringing. But, parents were kind of strict on that part. But for the most part, social life was good. My parents would go out of town quite a bit. And I was a guy who would usually throw a party there, here and there. And so that acclimated my social life, and it acclimated me so much over the years until when I became a senior. I was actually voted class president of the graduating class in 1993. That's the class I actually graduated in. Of course, we won the state championship in 92.
Yes.
But, football was a thing. Once I had learned the game as a ninth grader, I really excelled. It was brought up on varsity the 10th grade year, and, was ready and with them during the playoffs. Then my junior year, I started at defensive end and was, rocking and rolling and doing my thing. And then when I was a senior, it was more of a leadership thing. It was more of we had a goal. The other two captains, Juan Davis, Joe Lagarde, we get together and we knew what we wanted to accomplish. We knew what we wanted to do. And we were more like a family, more like brothers. And we really studied and knew the game. We watched film together. And even when coaches made certain calls, especially on defense, based on what we saw on the field, we could change it up and do something different. And there was, no reprimands for that because normally it worked. It worked out great. So, I don't know if I really left a real legacy at East Forsyth, but any way that I can give back, I'd love to give back to East Forsyth, which is one of the reasons that I'm doing color with Desmond right now on the varsity nights. And I also host a coaches show for Coach Todd Willard, head coach of the East Forsyth Eagles. We do that every Tuesday night at Jay Peppers. And I'm thinking we're still going to be there again this year. If we're not, then of course, stay tuned. We'll let you know where we'll be, Ryan.
Absolutely. And yes, I actually did have class of 93. I read 92 once I read the championship. So yes, class of 1993, as you did correct me on that. After high school, you go to UNC Chapel Hill, graduated with a major in biology, minor in business. And then you got a master's degree in higher education. And then after college, you own a logistics company for 10 years. And now you're a managing partner of a distribution center. So tell us about your post-college and kind of what you got into post your playing career and what you're doing now.
Well, post-college, and actually when I went to college, I was, thinking about walking on and, to UNC Chapel Hill, the Tar Heels. And, I went down and checked it out. And there was a lot of politics involved in college football. If you weren't recruited, then you were one of those guys that was just basically, a body out there and used for whatever. And, has someone who was able to get into school on his own. And, I just wasn't going to be used for whatever, because I was not recruited. You know what I mean? So I decided to stick with my education, did that. And I was planning on going to radiology school. However, we had a mishap in the family. My father had passed away probably about a month before I graduated and from college. And so I decided to head back to the Winston-Salem area, wound up teaching at East Forsyth for a couple of years. My younger brother was there. He was a major concern for me, losing our father at the age that he was, still being in high school. So I mainly came back for him because we were always taught to stay real close, as brothers and as just family, period. So I came back to East Forsyth, taught a little bit, kind of took him under my wing. And then, of course, he went on to NC State and then went on to Harvard Business School. And I'd like to think that I had something to do with that since I was here. So, So then after when he had graduated and was gone, as you know, teachers don't get paid a lot.
Nope.
So I was looking to do some other things, and I got in with a partner of mine, Chad Delp, and we opened up a freight brokering business, freight brokerage. And we ran that together for a while. And I purchased him and bought him out. and then went on and continued to run it. And then in 2015, I sold it. And in the process of selling that, I took some time off, traveled a little bit, went to France, all over Europe, China, Hawaii, Dominican, just kind of went all over and just kind of relaxed a little bit after taking some time off. Then I came back, and while I was in China, I hooked up with some folks and met some business people. And they wound up wanting to open up a distribution center here in the States. And we kind of talked, and I gave them my ideas of the way I thought it should go and how it should run and how it should work. And at the end of the day, they wound up opening a facility in North Carolina, Jacksonville, Houston, California, as well as Ontario, Canada. And, we sat down, put a package together, made me a managing partner. So that's what I'm doing now. And, just going to work every day. And I try to give back to the kids at East Forsyth in any way that I can. And also do a little dibbling dabbling. Well, not really dibbling and dabbling. I do real estate investment. And I also invest in the foreign currency exchange market.
Well, as you said, Rod, there's a lot there, but it looks like a lot of well-rounded things you've gotten into post your college and athletic career, and obviously still give back to East Forsyth and athletics, as you said, doing the varsity on Friday nights and obviously the coaches show as well. As we wind out here, Rod, where can our listeners find you on social media? Where can they connect with you?
Oh, my goodness. I am, believe it or not, Ron, I'm still having a hard time getting into social media. A lot of times when there's something out on, I have a Facebook page, Rod Funderburk, and Des usually puts stuff on it for me most of the time. Usually I'm not a big social media guy. When I travel and go places, I like to keep it private, because that's just me. I've always been that type of person. I've always felt like, the less people who are involved in knowing what you're doing, the less problems you have. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So I'm one of those old school thinkers. Social media has never pushed my buttons or anything like that. But if you want to get a hold of me, you can get me anytime on Facebook. And of course, during football season, you can always, get me at East Forsyth. I'm usually somewhere on one of East Forsyth's Twitter pages or somewhere in the mix, but I don't have an Instagram. I think Des is trying to get me into Instagram. I don't have a Twitter. Des is still trying to get me into Twitter as well. Maybe I will get all that stuff cranked up this year, but you can get me on Facebook, which they say that's where the old people are. And of course I am pushing 50. I'm 3 years away from 50.
Oh, boy.
So, so maybe I am in that bracket that I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Rod, this has been great. As I said at the top, my guest today has been Rod Funderburk. He is a class of 1993 graduate of East Forsyth High School, 1992 state champion of the football team, and UNC Chapel Hill graduate as well, and currently your color analyst for the East Forsyth Eagles on Friday nights. Find him in the fall with Desmond Johnson on the call as well there on Friday nights. Rod, all the best to you. Thanks for coming on, being a guest here today on Triad All Stars, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It was a pleasure being here. Honor. Thank you.
Hello and welcome back to another episode here on Triad All Stars. My name is Ryan Smith, and today's episode is featuring another guest from East Forsyth, former coaches and athletes that we are currently in this series. And today my guest is former soccer star at East Forsyth. She is Julie Scott, now Julie McCann. Julie, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you, Julie. Let's start out with just your background, growing up, how soccer fit into your life, and how sports growing up in Cornersville went.
Well, growing up in Kernersville was just a great place to be, whether you were going to choose soccer or anything for that matter. I was lucky, though. My parents really saw a lot of value in sport and just felt like that life skills could really be taught there. And they just put all of us, me and my three siblings, in all kinds of different sports, really. Soccer is what we all gravitated to, ironically. And like I said, it was great. I mean, whether we were playing, I think we started out all playing in the league, the KSA league behind Cash, and then eventually going and playing for like travel teams. Back back in, late 80s and so forth, there wasn't a whole lot of girls teams. So I ended up having to travel to Greensboro for when we got older, for more competitive play, or for AAU basketball and, and going to High Point. But I do think, like I said, growing up in Kernersville was just a wonderful childhood. And especially if you wanted to be an athlete and play sports, it was really awesome.
Yeah, and going specifically to your time at East Forsyth, you had 3 siblings, all athletes, but soccer obviously was your main sport where you played 3 sports for 2 years. And you were elected to the Hall of Fame in 2016, 2017. Basketball, you scored 1,000 points there, conference multiple years, all conference and MVP. You also played volleyball also for 2 years as well. But soccer is kind of where you made your fame, all conference, all region for 4 years, all state senior year. Scoring record for soccer for over 130 goals in a 4-year career, female athlete of the year in 1995 for East Forsyth. And then you even went the Olympic development program during your time there as well, all state and all region teams out of the 9 states on the East Coast. So a lot of accomplishments at East, specifically East-West All-Star participant as well for soccer. And then your club team, the Greensboro Twisters, the North Carolina State champions in 1995. So I've just listed off a little bit of your accomplishments in high school for our listeners. And my question is, when you look back in your time at East Forsyth, what do you think your legacy is there specifically? What mark did you leave on East Forsyth? And just how did you enjoy your time there? What do you look back and remember?
Well, I was lucky to be at East. I think that it was a great experience. I mean, it's a big piece of that shaped who I am now, really. I think high school years is probably why I started coaching high school age girls and boys, because I just feel like it's just a huge part of your life where you're figuring out who you want to be and what you want your life to be later. And fortunately, I was surrounded around really good people at East, good coaches who just really cared about me and the team, and taught me a lot about, not just about the sport on the field, but also, like those bigger life skill moments that my parents wanted when I was a kid. And I hope that my mark left is that, even though, you have these accolades or whatever, that I hope that I did everything with humility and respect. I think that was kind of my motto, which I still kind of carry now, which is respecting everybody, but fearing nobody.
And then graduating from the class of 1995, you go to Wake Forest University playing on scholarship for soccer, leading scorer freshman, sophomore year. Unfortunately, you tore your ACL at the end of that sophomore season and had to redshirt, but then back in your senior year in 1999, team reached top 20 ranking your sophomore year, top 10 ranking your senior year, made into the tournament each of the 4 years that you were there. Talk about your time at Wake Forest and what that meant to you post East Forsyth.
I think, once again, a fabulous experience, super lucky. I still talk to those players today. I mean, we still touch base. My roommate and I were just texting about how big our kids were the other day. Not as much now that our lives are so busy with our kids older. Obviously, most of us have teenage, age kids, and they're doing their things and we're invested in them. But when we have alumni meeting things and we come back, I mean, the bond that I created with that group, with that team, being with them, those were my best friends. And through thick and thin, even when I got injured, they were my backbone. They were the friends who helped me get through it and come back. Coaches too. I'm super lucky that my coach, Tony Luz, is still there, because now when I bring my kids to watch games, it's a wonderful experience that they can still be part of. It's in my back door, honestly, living in Winston at Spry Stadium. So we're big soccer supporters. And I think, obviously we wouldn't be as big as supporters if my experience just wasn't wonderful. I think that, I had downs and I had ups. I mean, my first 2 years, everything was smooth sailing. And then all of a sudden, you get an injury. What are you going to do with that? And that was another big life lesson. But I think my time at Wake, the friendships created, the memories, not just the winning. I think just they were just those friends. I'll just never forget those times. It's interesting when you think back what stands out. And I think the funny moments and the times with friends stand out just as much as the big games that we won.
And how did you transition into coaching after you were done playing? Just tell us briefly how you got that transition into coaching? You obviously have a number of stops. Forsyth Country Day is where you're currently at as the girls soccer coach. But talk to us briefly about your transition into coaching.
It actually started at Wake. For extra money, I started coaching soccer camps. I would do the guys' camps with Jay Vidovich, and then work the girls' camps for extra money during the summer. And then I would go work other college camps. I even worked for the Dynamo for the semi-pro team at that time. And I just started to fall in love with it. Working with kids and teaching them something that I was passionate about, which I already knew that I wanted to teach. And it just fell into place. Like I said, it was just, it was easy, and it wasn't work for me. I really felt like that I could do something and make an impact as well.
And just listening for the listeners, a number of your stops here started at Wake Forest, as you said. You were an assistant coach at High Point University from 1999 to 2000. Mm-hmm. Coach at Reynolds, 2011 season and 2013. Junior Academy coach from 2012 to 2017 for girls ages 8 through 10. And then also you were the Forsyth Country Days boys teams from 2020. 2017, 2021. And so currently you are coaching the girls, where they were the state runners up in 2021, lost in overtime, state champ this past season in 2022. And as my daughter is wonderfully interjecting herself into this podcast, Conference Coach of the Year in 2021 and 22, all region for the private school 3A Coach of the Year in 2019, 2021, and 2022. So a lot of accomplishments back now into your coaching career. You also have a family that you're raising as well. 3 children, 1 boy and 2 girls. Been married for almost 20 years. So a lot of different aspects in your life. And just talk about now Forsyth Country Day and your time there, and just what you get most coaching from that time there.
Well, I think, coaching now 20 years, you learn a lot. I think the interesting piece, like anything, when you first start out at something, you think that, wow, I know this and I know that, and I've got this all under control. And then now when I look back I look back at what kind of coach I was in my 20s, coaching, club, or coaching the little ones, or coaching guys. And now the coach I am now, there's definitely some things I would change. And I definitely have learned a lot, and I've got a lot more to learn. But I think that over time, I realized that it's the relationships that I cherish the most. We had banner night, for example, the other night when we won the state championship. And a lot of players that I coached just the last couple of years, whether they're NC State or High Point or wherever they are, coming back and seeing them again now 4 years older, or players that I coach that are now in their 30s, and still connecting with them and them sharing their memories with me. I think that's just that's the tradition I want to continue. I hope that all of my players, whether it's club or high school, that they can look back at the time that I coached them and said, you know what, I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. And yeah, sometimes it was tough, and sometimes Coach McCann was really hard on me, but in the end, I would do it again, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I still love soccer. Like I hope that those are the things that are the takeaways. And if they learned some life lessons along the way that made them better people, even better.
And Coach, where can we find you on social media? Where can our listeners get in touch with you?
On Insta, it's under JS McCann. Pretty easy. It's a picture of me and Michael. I usually will post pictures. I'm not, I'm trying to increase, I guess, my social media exposure for my players and my team. We're working on creating a site, and also for site FCDS Athletics. You'll also see me and the team there. They're on Insta, but my girls are getting on to me. They want to have their own page, and I said, well, I'm good friends with the boys coach, Coach Bohan, and maybe who knows, maybe we'll do a page together and stuff for Forsyth Country Day Soccer. But right now it's just JS McCann and Forsyth Country Day Athletics on Instagram.
And as we wrap up here, last question for you. At the end of the day, do you have a coaching style do you feel like your players kind of gravitate towards a specific style? Is that something you've kind of developed over the year? What's your coaching style?
I think I definitely am a planner. I try to look at the big picture and then work my way back in, kind of like from the end where I want to be and then work my way backward. Like for example, this week, we're planning for a game that is not going to happen until the end of the following week. So then from there, can we work our way back into building into what we want to create, start broad with the umbrella and then kind of work my way in. But I think that I really try to address some basics in practice, which is technically, can we be a quality player when you're on the field? I think I drill that over and over. We try to have some fun with it, but I really try to get my players to understand that it never stops. Like you're constantly working on the skill of the game. Tactically, can we be smart? So we're constantly I'm trying to push them to think on the field. Sometimes the game is harder up here than it is, with our body, harder in our head. So I'm constantly asking them questions in practice. I'm that coach. Well, why did you do that? It's not just an open-ended question where they can answer it easily. I really want them to think. And then the other thing is we like to have fun. Sometimes, we had a water gun fight and then end of the game right before for senior day last year. I sent them on a scavenger hunt another day across campus. So I want them to have fun too, because it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah,
it's supposed to be fun. And yes, you can work hard and have fun at the same time. And I think that's probably my overall theme is, yes, we can do all these things to make us better players, but can we work hard and have fun? And yes, I think you can.
Awesome. Well, Julie, this has been a great conversation. Great to get to know you a little bit. And as I said at the top, my guest today has been former East Forsyth and Wake Forest standout Julie Scott, now Julie McCann. Julie, all the best to you. Good luck for this upcoming season for the Forsyth girls soccer team. And thank you for coming on here and being a guest on Triad All Stars.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.